Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chong Alfares with the top economic reports from around the world. Coming up on today's show, Mobileye makes a killing on the New York Stock Exchange, and Mezcal takes on luxury markets worldwide. First, the headlines. U.S. President Barack Obama on Monday welcomed more than 40 African leaders to a three-day summit in Washington, D.C., aimed at boosting economic ties and addressing Africa's infrastructure and investment storage. Obama warned that the future prosperity of the world hinges on African nations achieving affluence and self-reliance. A two-decade surge in growth in the poorest continent has raised the prospect of African lions emulating the Asian tiger economies in the 21st century. A study commissioned by the African Union suggests Africa's share of the global economy could triple by 2050, while average per capita income could surge sixfold. But for now, most Africans continue to live in abysmal living standards, and security challenges block economic development.
A competition between China and the United States in their quest to grab, if I may use that word, grab the African pie. There are 2 points to it. There's a positive point, which means that it gives African countries the leverage to negotiate and get what they want, because at least there are competing forces approaching them. But there's also a threat to it.
Portugal's central bank late Sunday decided to rescue the country's second largest lender by breaking up the bank and pumping in billions of euros of state money. The central bank took control of Banco Espírito Santo in a $6.6 billion bailout that will leave junior bondholders with losses. Shares of the lender plunged 73% in Lisbon last week to 12 euro cents before the stock was suspended on August 1st. Most of the activity and the assets of Espírito Santo will be transferred to a new bank called Novo Banco, which will seek to find private investors to buy significant stakes in the bank. European sanctions have forced Russia's national carrier Aeroflot to ground its new low-cost subsidiary Dobrolet. Dobrolet will temporarily suspend all flights from Monday after European counterparties annulled aircraft insurance agreements, stopped providing aeronautical information, and refused to fulfill leasing, repair, and maintenance agreements. The EU said Dobrolet facilitated the integration of the illegally annexed Autonomous Republic of Crimea into the Russian Federation. Aeroflot, a member of the SkyTeam Alliance, had set up Dobrolet, Russia's first national low-cost carrier, in October 2013 and only started flights this year. China's stocks rose to an 8-month high in speculation the government is accelerating state-owned enterprise reform and relaxing rules to help brokerages free up capital for expansion. The Shanghai Composite Index rose 1.7% to close at the highest level since December 10th, while the CSI 300 Index advanced 2%. The market was boosted by news from the China Securities Regulatory Commission, which plans to lower risk management requirements on brokerages. State-owned China Everbright Bank rose 4.5%, and Everbright Securities gained 3.3% on news their parent company will become a joint stock company. CITIC Securities and Haitong Securities, the largest listed brokerages, climbed more than 4%. While Gazan rockets continue to rain on Israel and the world condemns Israel's retaliation in the Desert Strip, Israel's Mobileye raised a record amount in its initial public offering on the New York Stock Exchange. More in this report.
More than $1 billion. That was the amount Israeli company Mobileye raised in its public debut on the New York Stock Exchange. The share price increased 48% to $37 on its first day alone.
The IPO will allow the company to expand Mobileye internationally, going to allow it to invest in new markets while continuing to develop its technological products.
But what exactly is Mobileye? You could call it an accident prevention system for the road. Mobileye. Utilizing a camera and artificial vision, the technology can detect other vehicles, pedestrians, and even roadway signs. If a driver exceeds the limit, for example, Mobileye makes a sound, alerting the driver.
We live in a time when the driver can be held by $500,000 more than anything in his conduct. This is actually a kind of protective eye.
Mobileye, therefore, has the ability to thwart many accidents.
We can prevent 500,000 injuries and save 8,000 lives.
And automakers are apparently convinced. Expect to see Mobileye technology in your BMW, Volvo, Hyundai, or General Motors vehicles.
And we're joined now by Clarity Capital CEO and founder Tal Keinan for a discussion of the logic and reason behind the Mobileye listing. Mr. Keinan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So why has the Gaza conflict not affected the record-setting Mobileye IPO?
All right, good question. First, the Gaza conflict is not really affecting Israeli markets in general.
Right.
So if you look at the Tel Aviv 25 stock index is up about 1.5%.
That's right.
Yeah, while the S&P 500 Euro stocks are all down over the last month. So in general, it doesn't seem like Israeli markets are being affected by what's going on. And we've discussed this on your program earlier. Right. But kind of I think what really underlies that on a more fundamental level is financial markets tend to look a little bit deeper. I'd say financial journalism tends to go a little bit deeper because of its consumers. The consumers of financial journalism are actually taking risk based on what they're seeing. So they tend to look deeper. It's not, when you're doing a Facebook like on a certain issue, you're not taking real risk.
Of course.
Whereas if you're going to invest in a Mobileye IPO, for example,
you want to know what's going on there.
You will have done your homework.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, as an exporter of financial services, I mean, has your investment firm been affected by the war, by the situation?
Yeah, so I think we're also in the same kind of boat. We haven't seen any impact on our business. Again, anybody who's, I think, in the service business on a global level, or what I'd call very easily transferable products. So, for example, software-based products. Isn't really seeing an effect, from this. Now, if you're in the tourist industry, obviously it's a different story.
Would you say it has a lot to do also with niche markets? I mean, Israel is very strong in certain niche markets, in terms of biopharm, in terms of high tech. Yeah. I mean, there's certain products that we produce that, they'll need regardless. And so people, logically and sort of rationally tend to invest.
I agree with you. Look, if you have a serious competitive advantage in the field that you're delivering value in, people will tend to go for your product or service, and that's I think that's been the case.
Setting aside the Gaza hostilities, I mean, is basically the market especially hot right now for Israeli companies?
Yeah, so the market's hot in general for IPOs and all sorts of corporate activity, including mergers and acquisitions. Right. For Israel specifically, I mean, there's a long lineup. I think even this month we're going to see another 3 Israeli IPOs in the medical device and biotech space, and I'm sure a lot more by the end of this year. So for Israeli IPOs for sure. In general, just look at markets right now. We've got, certainly by the standards of the last few years, fairly rich multiples in equity markets, particularly in tech and particularly in biotech. You've got a lot of cash. So the M&A markets are well priced, which will translate to IPO markets as well. So it's a rich environment.
What are the pros and cons of listing and investing, for that matter, during a time of war? During a time of conflict, are there pros and cons that you could list in that point, or?
Well, I'd say it goes to the first topic we discussed, which is the kind of level of depth that that markets will look at different issues relative to kind of generic journalism. Okay. And that is a lot of market participants look for catalysts which will affect prices and will tend to act on those catalysts. Meaning, if I have a deep understanding of a situation and I think the market is looking at it on a more shallow level and might misperceive, for example, a war as a reason to seek lower prices or lower price points, that's a buying opportunity for for a market participant. Again, I don't think we've seen that in this particular case, but that's certainly and markets tend to be forward-looking. The markets rallied about 6 months before the Battle of Midway in the Second World War. So markets, I think, really there is a certain wisdom of the crowds that comes into play in markets.
Feel it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, Tal Keinan, CEO and founder of Clarity Capital, thanks for joining us and enlightening us a little bit more about the markets during time of conflict.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mezcal, a lesser-known Mexican spirit than tequila, is currently experiencing an unprecedented rise in popularity both at home and abroad. The boom, however, is only favoring producers big enough to capitalize on the luxury export market. Here's the story.
Mezcal was known as a cheap and bad quality version of tequila. But this Mexican spirit made from agave has turned all that around in the past couple of years. The producers are now exporting almost 1 million litres of their firewater across the globe, selling for up to $100 a pop.
In 2013, 105 mezcal brands were exported to 31 countries. We have seen an increase in exports of around 20 to 30% in the past few years.
The Cortez family has produced mezcal for 6 generations. They've seen the highs and lows of the business and embody the current rise in popularity of this spirit. They now export around 70% of their production.
We are very grateful to those that have come and learned and have taken mezcal to other countries. They haven't taken it simply as an alcoholic drink, but as a drink that's part of our culture, and they're working to teach people about it.
Not all 15,000 producers are able to directly access this luxury export market. So to benefit from this rise in popularity, they're selling their mezcal to intermediary companies.
Thanks to them, mezcal can access any market. I think that other companies might also follow their lead when they see the real value of mezcal.
But for some of the smaller mezcaleros like Don Juan, it's another story. The boom is passing them by.
The little that we produce, we wait until we sell it all. Then we produce some more. We don't do any more, and we don't sell anywhere else.
With wild agave needing up to 35 years to mature, many are concerned that increased production could be endangering the sustainability of a plant that provides the mezcaleros a source of income.
We're joined now by I-24 News correspondent Danielle Swibel for a discussion of articles from around the globe in Media Watch. Danny Swibel, thanks for joining us.
I'm happy to be here. Good to be back.
Absolutely. Back to basics, huh?
That's right. That's correct.
So our first story takes us to McDonald's?
McDonald's is under siege worldwide. At home and abroad, CEO Don Thompson is not happy about things and the affairs of the company. They had a tough July. I don't know if you've heard.
I heard. Okay. I mean, basically, I had China. I mean, that's the main story that came out, right?
Yeah, I mean, first the disaster in China, maybe mishandling the food. The word got around, so there was meat shortages throughout the 2,000 locations in China, which is very serious. Simultaneously, they're already going through tough times at home. In the States, there's a lot of competition with new food outlets like Chipotle and Burger King and Wendy's. And so McDonald's is trying to find new innovative ways to stay a part of people's lives.
They've been trying to be innovative, I mean, like with all kinds of health stuff. But I mean, seriously, come on, this is McDonald's.
They've succeeded.
Right?
They've succeeded for the most part with some of their healthier choices.
Until they started repackaging old meat in China.
Yes, and also in Russia with the whole crisis between Russia and the U.S. and, you know, with the Ukraine situation, with the sanctions, they've gotten into a bit of a mix. And so McDonald's is a very easy target for people because it is in the spotlight. And right now he's trying to find a way to end all these conflicts.
All right, well, I'm starting to get bellyache from all this. What else do we have here?
11 countries near bankruptcy. This is from 24/7 Wall Street. What are some of the countries you would guess are nearing that bankruptcy edge?
Put me on the spot, right, don't you, Mr. Swibel? Just tell me what it is.
Well, second on the list, I wanted to focus on something in the region is Egypt. Wow. We could probably guess why. Again, and still no tourists are coming, not in droves that they used to be before the revolution, before Mubarak fell. Right now, Al-Sisi, the new president, is trying to maintain stability and turn the page, getting people to invest.
Employment. I mean, it's a bad situation there, yeah.
And many people are moving their money from Egyptian pounds to US dollars. So that's definitely bad news for Egypt.
Right.
I'm going to continue on to Pakistan. Pakistan, this is a really crazy reason why they are nearing bankruptcy. 1 out of every 200 citizens files their income tax return. So with that in mind, you know, the debt of the country is piling up. A lot of instability there. I want to go down the list.
Keeping track of the paperwork, I guess.
A bit. So a lot of the countries I also have on the list are going through kind of, you know, some similar things. But countries like Cyprus and Greece, who we thought were over the cliff of economic calamity, are actually starting to rebound.
Right.
They're starting to have more economic discipline, and things are paying off.
Okay, good. Right. Okay, what else do we have here beyond that?
Okay, my last story, moving away from anything in the Middle East, bacon.
Bacon? Who's talking about bacon? Where's this from?
The cost of bacon, it's come Huffington Post.
Huffington Post,
the price of bacon is going up, it's exponentially. It's very high, and it's actually up to $6.11 a pound.
Gosh,
you can buy a lot more things for $6.11 than a big pound of bacon.
All right, Daniel, so enough about bacon. We're going to have to end here. Thank you very much for joining us. That's a wrap for us at The Economy Magazine, your daily source for economic and financial reports with i24 News. I'm Benjamin Chong-Faris. Follow me on Twitter and follow us on Facebook. And please continue to watch us here.